Hi. So hello everyone. I'm going to talk for like 5 minutes about legality and regulation on Bitcoin. I'm Thaddeus Dryja. I just moved here a month ago. I'm doing research and stuff in Bitcoin. So a lot of people have a lot of questions about, is Bitcoin legal? What kind of status does it have? And in general, well, at least here, Bitcoin is legal. The U.S. government has been actually quite permissive about it. The U.S. Senate had some hearings last fall that were very positive, and generally it's seen as, this is a legal means of payment, a legal means of exchange. Some foreign countries are much more restrictive, though, than America. So yeah, that's like they were saying from 37 coins. Pretty much everyone in this room doesn't really need Bitcoin. We at the U.S. enjoy one of the most stable financial systems in the world. So you don't really need to worry about it, but a lot of other countries have governments that are much more restrictive and have capital controls, and they're generally much more antagonistic towards Bitcoin. So Bolivia is one that specifically named in legislation Bitcoin and prohibited its use. Some other nations like Iceland, China, and Cyprus have much more restrictive controls over capital, and so Bitcoin's a lot harder to use there. And so it can differ between countries and even states in America on how it's used. But there's no sort of global treaty or UN resolution or anything about Bitcoin. It's too new. It's not on their radar yet. So for the US, actually, there are some restrictions that people may find counterintuitive, but legally it sort of makes sense and has to be this way. According to the IRS, Bitcoins are property, sort of like any other thing, like a car or something. And they're regulated as such. So capital gains and or losses have to be declared. I guess if you have a capital loss, you could probably get away with not declaring it because you don't have to pay for it. But so if you buy a Bitcoin for today for $620 or whatever it costs, and next year it's $720 and you sell it, you do have to declare that $100 gain and pay taxes on it. But I mean, that's, there's obviously not going to be an exception for Bitcoin just because it's virtual. Anything that you buy and sell that way also has to be declared and taxed. It may seem annoying for small purchases, but actually it's pretty easy because the whole point of Bitcoin is to record every single transaction that's happened. So if you're using your phone, blockchain wallet, any other software, it's got a record of everything you've bought and sold. So it's pretty quick and easy to sort of tabulate what your cost basis is. So it's no different than any other property in that sense. And actually, a recent California bill explicitly rescinds any prohibition on alternative currencies. It was probably legal before that, but they just made sure last month in California. Yeah, so another thing that to be careful of, there's a thing called FBAR that you need to file if you have any foreign bank accounts. I think it's over $10,000, but it might be less. Just if you have money stored abroad, you need to file a form. I filed it a couple weeks ago. The 2013 forms were due end of June. It's not that hard. You download a PDF, you fill out your bank account info for foreign banks and say how much you have. So if you're using a foreign-based Bitcoin exchange, you will have to fill out this form. So many of the popular exchanges, Bitstamp and others, are based not in America. So if you have dollars in those accounts, you need to file this. For Bitcoins themselves, you do not have a reporting requirement. So if you have 100 Bitcoins, great. You don't have to file an FBAR because it's not seen as a foreign account. There's no foreign financial institution that's responsible for it. So there's actually no requirement to declare Bitcoin assets, only gains when you buy or sell. Another thing to just be careful of is Bitcoin's sort of the Wild West. Payments are irreversible and somewhat anonymous. It can be very difficult to prove, who created a transaction. So it's not quite like, having cash. It's like cash in that it can be stolen, but unlike cash, if someone steals your wallet and runs out the door, you'll maybe be able to find them because they're in San Francisco and you can ask the cops to help. But if someone steals your Bitcoins, they're probably not even in this country. And, asking the police, they might be sympathetic, but they're just not going to do anything. They can't. So that's the downside to you are your own bank. Security is really important because you're the bank, and if it gets stolen, there's really no one to talk to. So if you have substantial amounts of Bitcoin, you might want to dedicate a separate computer or have paper backups, things like that. Those are the risks with it. Yeah, so just a quick recap for U.S. Bitcoin users. You do need to keep track and declare on April 14th in the evening of your cost basis of purchases. It's not that hard. I've done it. Declare and pay a capital gains tax. If your income is not that high, the capital gains tax is actually pretty reasonable. But if your income is huge, then you pay more. You do have to file FBARs, which were due like 2 weeks or a week ago. So if you had, I think I didn't even actually know about FBARs until I lived in Japan. So they're very strict about it, and filing them late it's not an obvious requirement, because you move to a different country, you open a bank account there, they don't tell you that the U.S. government needs to know about this. So just make sure you look into that. My advice would be to stick to well-known, above-board companies, and be safe and have fun with Bitcoin. So I'll be at a booth over there. You can ask me questions, and I'll answer what I can. Legal things are not really my specialty. I'm more into sort of research on the different protocols and game theory of Bitcoin. I'll be over there if you want to ask questions. Thanks.
Thank you.